is obviously I'm doing the right thing. So
Yeah.
all right, we're going. Boom, here we are. Hey, so what's happening, Wrestling Nation, Wrestling Room, the Florida Wrestling Room, Ward Wrestling Live, everybody out there. We've got one of South Florida's great coaches over at Wellington, Coach Travis Gray. He's been the Wellington wrestling coach for a long time, and I believe, did you wrestle there when you were younger?
No, I grew up in Minnesota, actually.
Minnesota.
Moved down to Florida after college.
Nice. And you went to the University of Minnesota.
Yep.
And you've also got a club you started over there that you're the president of, Wellington Wrestling Club. So doing big things there, and kind of got a youth feeding program coming into middle schools and high schools, which I'm talking to Coach Dominguez down there. Middle school is important for South Florida. And,
yes, we were definitely behind in Palm Beach County there.
Yes, sir. And then you got a little stud in 5th grade, right, Taylor? That's running around the nation here, kicking some butt. So
we're trying.
Welcome, Coach. Yeah, welcome, Gray, man. I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much. And tell us, obviously, you and everybody have had struggles during this time. So talk about what you've been doing to keep your kids' minds right, keep your mind right, stay married, not get kicked out of the house.
Yeah, seriously.
All
Well,
that
yeah, we have, I'm married. I got 2 kids at home, so it's been kind of a groundhog day over and over. But we got out of school right before spring break. This thing all hit, and so we kind of had the next week or 2 off, anyways, and it gave me some time, thinking. We weren't sure how long it would be. But we kind of jumped right into it. Our plan was to get back to spring wrestling, to start working freestyle Greco. So we got right on Zoom, and I had, it's funny, 2 months ago, I would have never done this with you. I didn't like being on video calls, but now I'm an online teacher. We've been doing Zoom practices twice a week. We kind of, we sat down as a coaches group and identified, what were things that we needed to work on, and a couple things that came up were, leadership skills. We had a good senior class we lost this year, so we really need some new leaders stepping up, and so we thought about starting a leadership program. So we started meeting 2 days a week for about a half hour. The other thing we thought we really wanted to develop was this wrestling mindset. You see this all over social media. They have this organization, and one of my coaches had purchased the program. So that's what we've been doing, is we've been meeting 2 days a week, breaking down this book called Predator Mindset. And we've been doing that with our club team and our high school guys, inviting everybody in. And then every Thursday night, we have a leadership group for upperclassmen returning that are involved. We're trying to teach them how to be leaders and captains. And so it's not so wrestling specific as it is, what else can we get better at right now? We do have some kids that have wrestling mats. I actually purchased a mat for my son, Tyler. My wife says it's for me, but really it was for him to continue to work out. There's a lot of online, Facebook workouts that coaches are running, and, sending all my wrestlers workout programs that they can do from home, whether they have a pull-up bar or dumbbells or anything like that. So just trying to throw as much as I can at them, and hopefully some of it sticks. And I know some of them are doing it and some of them probably aren't, but just trying to continue to get better.
Yeah, it's amazing what the wrestling community has done to come together and offer all of these virtual platforms for training. I mean, we see it everywhere. I saw there's a Facebook group. I forget what it's called, but they do virtual all the time. And then Connor Beebe over on the Gulf Coast, doing stuff every morning and posting it. And you just see, you can go down the list. So that's pretty awesome. So that's good. That's good. Keeping them fresh, keeping them going, and keeping your 5th grader in the mat, or according to your wife, at least you on the mat. So tell us about your high school team over at Wellington. Tell us about the culture that you've brought there, and the culture you're building.
Yeah. I started coaching at Wellington in 2006 as an assistant coach. and I took over as head coach in 2007. It's kind of a funny story there. The head coach at the time, we were halfway through the season, and I had been talking to him, and I was like, "Oh, it's always been my dream to be a head coach. Like, I'm really excited. You hired me to coach with you." And he's like, "You do want to be a head coach?" I was like, "Yeah, I always wanted to do that." He's like, "How about next year?" he was doing it just to kind of fill a gap. And unfortunately, Wellington, you mentioned our club in the city of Wellington. They had a great wrestling club, late 90s through 2001, 2002. They had a great club program, great high school program. And then right after that, there was 4 straight years where they had 4 head coaches at the high school. And the club program started to dissolve. There's less and less members. So when I got in, it was kind of a shock to me, coming from Minnesota. I actually, my head coach that I wrestled for in high school is the winningest coach in the country, Scott Davis. He has over 1,000 wins. And he built an amazing program. We were ranked in the nation multiple years when I was in high school. And, coming down here into a situation where there was no real youth wrestling, there was no middle school teams in Palm Beach County. That was a shock. So it's been a slow build. My first couple of years, we had losing seasons. And then my 3rd season, we finally, had a winning record, and we've had winning records since. But, it was definitely some growing pains and a little bit of shock, seeing kids come into high school. We still have it. Half my team every year starts as freshmen, and they've never seen a wrestling mat before, But with the club, we're starting to see, 3-4 kids will come into 9th grade, and they've been wrestling for a few years. So we're starting to see some success of that work we've been putting in.
Wow. Yes. I'm sorry. There's an echo. Do you hear that?
No, it sounds all right.
Okay. I don't know if it's me. Hello. Maybe it's me. All right. So how far have you seen Florida wrestling come from that time in 2006 when you walked in and you were like, oh boy, and
Yeah.
now where you're starting to see kids come through middle school programs or come into the clubs with a little bit somewhat of some experience and starting to see to where I know you had a senior this year that finished 2nd at state. So it's been a long time coming for you, right?
Yeah. It's funny because my first 2 years, I mentioned we had a losing record and not a very successful team. But I did look around, at the competition. I'm like, this is not good wrestling, for the most part. You get to the state and you see some of the top guys, and they would be these guys. I'm like, okay, these guys can win in Minnesota too, But the depth really wasn't there, and that's 16 years now. It's really, man, it's night and day, the depth, because I feel like our teams are so much better now, and we're still fighting to compete. We had my first 3 years as a head coach, we would have like 1 state place winner and 2 or 3 state qualifiers, and we sort of plugging around. And it wasn't until I think it was like 2012 was our first year where we had 7 state qualifiers, and we've had at least 6 qualifiers every year since, up to, I think we've had 9 a couple of years. But to get to, where you're placing at state and winning state, I mean, these guys, you just look at the national events, we're at the point, the last 4 or 5 years we've been traveling to, Super 32 and up to Michigan. We've been up to Journeyman in New York and seen some of our Florida guys, just do outstanding. And it's a cool thing to see because the athletes, we definitely have them, but the sport just hasn't been a big thing. At our school specifically in Palm Beach County, the area without middle school wrestling, it's a tough sell, to get a kid to come out to wrestling and try it for the first time when they're used to playing football and baseball and every other sport year round. So catching some kids at that youth level is key to try to grow a program and get those kids involved early.
Yeah. And man, I don't know if that's me.
It sounds good to me. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know if don't know what I'm doing here. Oh, well, maybe it's my speaker. All right. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously in Minnesota, you're not playing football in the winter
Yeah,
or baseball in the winter. So you're able to get these kids into the rooms and at least try this, right? Um,
absolutely.
so talk about how important that youth club and youth program um, has been to kind of build Florida wrestling. I know Coach Morgan was on, and one of his big goals is to get people everywhere to start a youth club or get a youth club going or a youth program. He doesn't he's not worried about competition in club competition. He's worried about more
Yeah,
youth kids doing it so that we can build up our depth as a state. Because from everybody that I speak to, and including I think what you just said was if you took our top three or four, maybe top three from each weight class in each one of our regions to anywhere in the country, we can compete and win. But
yeah,
if you get down past that, is where uh, we're not going to compete as consistently, and that's really what you guys as coaches and youth coaches are trying to build. So where does that begin? How does that start? Or I guess it's started already, but how do we grab onto them at sixth grade and get them into that program or younger?
yeah. I mean, I've really noticed that the middle school age is the toughest age to get kids to do something new, especially like that. They even though we can use two piece now, they see the singlet, and that's just not a cool thing at that point. To convince a middle schooler to do anything is tough. So I really think having that little introduction in elementary, and as you mentioned with Coach Morgan, it's not even the competition. It's learning gymnastic movements and how to use your body, and body awareness, which way we should be turning, and trying to control somebody a little bit and move somebody else around. Those are just huge skills that if you can get them just kind of ingrained in second nature at that age, by the time they get to high school and you're trying to teach them higher level techniques, that stuff can easily be added on. But yeah, I think it's so important. When I got involved with our club, it was actually after I had been coaching for a couple of years at the high school. Um, that was my biggest thing. I had a baby at home. My goal was by the time he was in elementary school, kindergarten, whatever, we actually had a program that he could go to and have partners. That was a big draw of it. And now, it's not even just that. It's really trying to grow wrestling in the community. We have a handful of coaches in Palm Beach County now. Boomer Mears down at Olympic Heights and Sean Marces at Park Vista. We've been talking over the last year or 2 years about how we're going to get these youth programs together. Unfortunately, we were going to do a whole middle school season or competition coming up here, either this last spring, which obviously didn't happen, or in the fall. So hopefully we can somehow still get that going when we get back to school. But without its sanction at the schools, at the middle school level, it's really tough. That was one of my first goals as a coach at Wellington, was to try and get each middle school in the area a team. And it's tough getting the schools. I did get in one of the middle schools. They had an open portable for us for a few years, so we were able to keep a mat. And then one year we got into a second middle school, and I said, it's happening. We're going to have competitions. Well, about 2 weeks in, that second middle school, we had a kid break his arm. And the principal over there is like, we can't have this. It was like
Uh,
the worst possible thing that could happen. So, because we were talking to a third middle school for the following year.
how often does that happen? Like hardly ever.
Oh, and they weren't even wrestling. They were playing, a game on their knees where they're doing what we call turtle, where they try to get above their back, really low impact. The kid posted his arm. So yeah, it was awful. And the other middle school we had been in for 4 or 5 years, the next year they went over capacity at their school. They had no more room for us to store a mat. And unfortunately, down here in Florida, these middle schools don't have gyms. So there's not a lot of space to compete for. Storage or classrooms or anything like that. So we're out of the middle school again. Now we're just trying to pump kids to the club, and it's definitely an uphill battle, but like you said, it's grown so much. We have so many amazing coaches in Florida now. In all three, 1A, 2A, 3A. It's great to see. I do see a lot of the high school coaches like myself are, in charge of a lot of these clubs. I think that's the thing that's going to get us to that next level, is getting more high level coaches coaching the youth.
Yeah, and I know you had mentioned Olympic Heights.
Yeah.
They're doing a lot of really, really good things with girls wrestling.
Yes.
So they've got some studs over there. And talk about how important the growth of Florida wrestling, um, the importance of having girls sanctioning means to the growth of Florida wrestling.
Oh, it's huge. I've actually been on the rules committee, the advisory committee for the last 4 years, and that's been something we've talked about every year. And I know it's been a roller coaster the last month or two, but hopefully we end up, getting this through the board of directors at the FHSAA. I have a feeling they're going to get an earful if they don't. But yeah, we just had an amazing girl that graduated, not this last year, the year before. She was a state champion, and she placed second at the Super 32. She placed second up at the Michigan Grappler, a couple national events.
Wow.
And she was the only girl on my team. So she trained against boys 100% of the time. She competed against boys from other teams. This year, in preparation for next year, I advertised throughout my school, girls wrestling team, and I had about 9 girls show up. And, then I brought them in, did a couple practices, and I broke it to them. I said, well, this year, there's no girls wrestling, but, we have a team like Olympic Heights that I think they had like 5 or 6 girls as well. I was like, we can compete with them. And there's a couple, especially up in Orlando, they have good girls numbers. We can get up for a tournament or two. And, but next year we're going to have a girls season. And, I ended up slowly they disappeared. And I have 1 girl now. We do have a couple of middle school girls that are coming up, one that's coming into 9th grade this year. And we have a ton of youth girls, actually. We probably have a dozen that are, consistently coming into the club. So, think about the numbers. You double your Florida wrestling numbers just like that. You add another gender. So it's definitely coming. I'm really hoping it happens this year. I told my 1 girl on the team, she was a freshman this year, that about what was happening this summer. And originally it came out, well, somebody posted that there wasn't going to be, and then FHSA said, oh, well, maybe it still is going to happen. So
Yeah, I think it said that it's gotten past certain levels, but it hadn't been finalized yet.
Yeah, I know the coaches voted in unanimously. The athletic directors, they were waiting on, but it sounds like the athletic directors did vote it as well. And now I think it goes to the board of directors at FHSAA. So assuming they can make that happen, we should be good to go. Hopefully we're all good to go in the fall. That's another concern, but.
Well, so tell us about that. Tell us about that little All-American you have in Taylor. I saw some posts with him up on the podium.
Yeah, my son, Tyler, he's he'll be going into middle school next year, 6th grade. So yeah, he was a freestyle All-American 2 years ago up at USA Nationals. And unfortunately, we couldn't compete last year. We were traveling over the summer, so he was really looking forward to doing it 1 more year before he moves up to the next age level. Next year, he would have been the older one in his group. But obviously, all that stuff's canceled. But he's interesting. He's got a taste of it. We actually have been trying to influence him to get involved in some other sports. He did the other thing. He's done baseball, and he's done golf, and he did flag football this spring. We finally convinced him that flag football could be on Monday, Wednesday. He could still go to Tuesday, Thursday wrestling practice. But, that's one of my fears, as a dad and a coach. You see kids that get burned out. They do it as a little kid, and, parents maybe push them. And I have to be careful playing both roles, not pushing him over the edge and continue to make it fun. But he's very competitive. He really likes, pushing himself in practice, and he loves coming into my high school room and practicing with those guys. It's weird. He likes to work hard. Now, my younger son is not interested in that physical, So it's funny to see polar opposites there, but it's been a lot of fun. That was one of the things. First time you ever wrestled, I think I experienced every emotion as a dad, like fear, anger, nervousness, like everything. Like I just couldn't even control myself. It was almost the tears the first time he went out there, and it's just like got off the mat. I just hug him. He got his butt whooped, for a while, and
Totally different from the coach on the mat. Now it's your son. Right?
And honestly, it did change the way I coach. I really had to just kind of look at this whole thing as a process. Even my high school kids, sometimes you think they should, we should have won that. We should have done this. You should know better. It's not about that. It's the process, and just having fun with it. That's every time he steps out on the mat, I'm like, go have fun. Go have fun, kick some butt. And whatever happens, we're getting ice cream afterwards. That's the thing. So.
That doesn't change because my 14-year-old and an 11-year-old, and they'll be 15 and 12 in September, and they still want to go get ice cream afterwards. So
yeah, every time.
Except when the 14-year-old's cutting weight, he tells the little one, "You need to be cutting weight right now." But the big one does. So, well, you've had a lot of success. I mean, and that's good, and awesome to see the team growing. I did notice that last year you had some real good success on the AAU levels at the Riverdale Fall Brawl. You had all your wrestlers were in the top 4. The AAU Ridge Rumble, I guess, which is big down there. You had 2 in the top 2. Your state tournament, and you had a senior that finished as high as 2nd. And then I do know the Mustang Open. I did take my son there. They've got a good program over there at Merritt Island, good coach. And wish I could reach out to him and get him on. But several wrestlers in the top 3 at that. So you've definitely grown your club, and obviously the youth are a big part of that. And now with your sons, both your sons coming up, you'll have, I'm sure you'll be involved in that even more. So I've got 10 questions for you. You ready?
Okay, sounds good.
Did I miss anything that you wanted to discuss? Is there anything that you want to talk about that maybe I didn't touch on?
Not that I can think of.
I always like to ask that because sometimes maybe there's something on your mind, or maybe there was something you really wanted to get out, and I just wanted to make sure.
I will say, part of the success we've seen at Wellington really has to do with all the coaches we've had involved. So I give a shout out to all of our coaches. Throughout the years, I had a coach that started with me first year that was with me for 10 years, and another one that came on for 6, and now I got a few with me now that have been with me for 5-6 years. So that's a huge part in parent involvement. Wellington, I couldn't be more lucky. I got some awesome team moms. Anybody that comes to our tournaments knows a lot of people involved. So it takes a lot of people, to have that type of success. So very lucky on that end.
Awesome. Well, good. You're doing a great job, and look forward to seeing that little guy rise up through the ranks. So, all right, let's do it. You ready?
Yes, I think so.
South Florida beaches or Gulf Coast beaches?
Oh man, Gulf Coast beaches.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Gulf Coast too.
Yeah.
Even though I'm a South Florida kid, the Gulf, I like it. Florida lobster or Florida stone crabs?
Oh man, I would say lobster. This is a tough call.
Yeah. Steak or ribs?
Steak.
Stonewood grill or aglio-olio?
Oh man, both. Oh man.
All right. Do you prefer the beach or the pool?
In Florida, the pool. I'm not a huge fan of the beaches. I don't like sharks and all that stuff. But up north, Minnesota, I'd rather be on the lake.
Yeah, and there's no gators on that lake up there.
That's right. No.
That's why I enjoyed going up to the Colorado River, because snakes and those types of things can't live in that altitude. So
Absolutely.
I can around as much as I want. Okay, so a couple of parks on your side of town. Do you prefer Okeechobee or Calypso Bay?
Okeechobee. It's a great place for our wrestlers to go run some hills over there.
Nice, nice. Freestyle or folk style?
Man. Freestyle.
32 or the Fargo?
Super 32. Super 32.
Headgear? No headgear.
Well, my wife says headgear, but I can't stand it. I say no headgear.
All right. Whopper or Big Mac?
Neither. You can't put that in your Ferrari.
You can't
Neither
put that in your Ferrari.
That's right.
Okay.
My wrestlers might be watching this. We
I
can't
don't
be
know.
having that.
Chick-fil-A or KFC?
I'll do Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A.
There we go. Awesome, man. Hey, thank you so much for coming on. Anybody that you know that is interested, please send them to my wrestling page.
Sure.
There's a book now button on there. So anybody who would like to come on, please feel free, click book now. Not receiving any sound.
I hear you.
I hear you.
Okay.
Douglas Schick says there's no sound coming over, but I hear you and you hear me, right?
Yeah. Well,
Huh?
we'll find out.
Yeah, we'll
Everybody
find out
gets to
when we
hear
get
it.
off here.
Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate you doing everything you're doing for the Florida wrestling community. It's pretty awesome. So
Yeah, man, and thank you so much. And yeah, like I said, anybody like to book now, please do. It's been crazy. I do 4 shows a day, right? Those are my time slots.
yeah.
And I have 20 shows signed up for this week. And then already next week, I have 19 shows.
Wow.
So it's insane what has transpired. So it's been amazing.
We all have a lot of time on our hands to do these things. So
Yeah.
works
Let's
out,
get
right?
that. Oh, got sound now. All right, cool. Thanks, Doug. Appreciate that. So yeah, so if you know anybody, please, if you book, you're going to be in that 3rd week slot, but let's get this thing built out. I'd love to have 4, 5, 6 weeks of 20 shows each already. And how much knowledge and stuff can we bring to the community if that's the case? So anybody around the country, anybody in Florida, any Florida coaches, Florida kids, youth kids, I don't care if you're 6 years old or 60. Let's talk wrestling.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, appreciate it.